Here we are on Wednesday, the 14th of June, and it's a busy night across the Deep South where we have widespread severe thunderstorm activity going on this evening. Showers and storms are exiting the northeast. Nice weather in the plains, some scattered thunderstorms up in the northwest, and nice weather also in the southwest. So we got all the corners covered right here on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, in southwest Suffolk County on Long Island. And get your truck over there and load it up, whether you're a professional or a do-it-yourselfer. Plenty of mulch, topsoil, sand, and anything else you need to make your home and or your business look great. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number. The best prices anywhere, and the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
And Tempest by Weatherflow. Father's Day is just a handful of days away. If you haven't gotten Dad his gift, well, think about giving him the Tempest weather system, and you can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. They have all sorts of other electronics, gizmos, and weather, the latest in weather fashion. The referral link is pinned at the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And if you purchase before Father's Day, normally you could put the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show and you would get 10% off. But because it's Father's Day, instead of 10%, which would be roughly $32.99 off, you're going to get $40 off. So you get yourself an extra $8. Isn't that special?
It is.
Yeah, it's
Anytime you get a few extra bucks, that's special, all right.
Oh, absolutely. Better in your pocket. So, Mr. Rayo, good evening. Good evening to everybody on the chat board, by the way, as everybody's piling in now, deep into conversation. If you're watching from behind the scenes, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel with your Gmail account, and you can join in on the conversation on the chat board, or just continue to watch it. If you like the show, hit the like button. We're on Mondays through Thursdays at 7:35 p.m., Sundays at 11 a.m., and if there's something going on, we would also pop on a Friday or a Saturday. Otherwise, those are our 2 days off. So I got a little bit of rain here today, here in northeast Georgia, but in spite of the fact that I am in the risk for severe thunderstorms, there's nothing close to me, but there's a ton of showers and thunderstorms and severe weather going on all across the Deep South. And Joe, you had your round of showers and maybe a rumble or two of thunder in the zone from eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England today.
Well, locally, we had about a half an inch of rainfall, and I can tell you right now, or as of just a few minutes ago, it was coming down pretty good again. But at the same time that it was coming down pretty good, we also had bright sunshine flowing in from the west, and I am sure that there must have been some kind of spectacular rainbow out there.
Oh, absolutely.
But I could not see it because I am surrounded on 3 sides. My home is surrounded on 3 sides by anywhere from 50 to 75-foot trees. And so I try to look and see something toward the east, for example. All I'll see is green. I will not see anything beyond the green because everything is thoroughly blocked from my view. So, but again, I'm making the assumption that for portions of Putnam and northern sections of Westchester around 7:30 this evening, there must have been some really beautiful rainbow effect out there. And who knows, it may have even have been a double rainbow. The rain was really coming down at least at a moderate clip, Joe, but there was also unusually bright sunshine, not much in the way of haze for that sun to shine through. So it probably was happening, but again, couldn't see it, but I'm going to make the assumption that it was out there.
All right. Well, you can't levitate yourself up 75 feet, because if you could, I'm sure you would have.
Well, if I didn't have to do this, what I probably would have done is I would have pulled the car out and very quickly gone to a spot. The elementary school is only 3 miles away, and it's on a rather high hill, and it overlooks the eastern part of the sky, which is where the rainbow would be if there was one. So I would have done that, but I conform to my to what I need to do or what I had to do. So here I am, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I'm looking at the U.S. satellite loop with the lightning flashes, and it's pretty busy in eastern New England now with some showers and some thunderstorms rolling through there. There was sort of a second band, I guess, behind this, but they're not really a couple of lightning strikes here and there, but not too much. And those are moving along. You can see the rotation. But take a look at the southeast and the Gulf states. There is an east-west band of very heavy thunderstorms, lots of lightning strikes. There have been numerous severe thunderstorm warnings. We'll get to those in a moment as that area sinks slowly to the southeast. Also evident on the satellite loop, Joe, is the smoke that is now over the Dakotas, Nebraska, Minnesota, back through Wisconsin, and it shows up pretty solidly here on the satellite loop. And you could also see the next upper trough that's going to be coming down and around behind the lead one, dropping now down into the northwestern Great Lakes. So we're going to have to see how much of this smoke makes it to the east.
Well, let me get the smoke map up, the future cast for the smoke map, and we can just see exactly where everything may be headed. Let me just move back a ways a little bit, and we shall begin at, 8 o'clock. And 8 o'clock shows that we had that, and we mentioned this last night, it's a light, let's stress the word light, overhang of smoke above us. But it's nothing compared to what we had a week ago when we had air quality indices in the 400s. This is probably verging on moderate, but nothing really to get all that upset about. And if I move things along, initially it looks like this is moving on out, and we're going to be set for a very nice smokeless day tomorrow. What you're seeing here is 4 o'clock in the morning, and so here you look at this and you say to yourself, well, tomorrow, Thursday, we'll probably be in this zone right here. No smoke to be seen on the projected smoke map over much of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And further back to the west, there's a little round of, again, light smoke over parts of the Ohio Valley. So you get the impression that, hey, we're going to clear out. It's going to be a beautiful smokeless day tomorrow here in the tri-state area. But then look what happens. Well, briefly, it's nice, 5 o'clock in the morning. It's all out except for maybe extreme eastern Long Island. And then look what happens. The future cast for smoke shows that between 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, all of a sudden, this one area to our east suddenly expands back to the west and up and over at least the Hudson Valley and northern New Jersey. And then as the day wears on, all of this stuff, the stuff from the west seems to just coalesce with the stuff that is pushing back to the west from the east. And we're in it, probably another again, semi-hazy day. I mean, I'm sure we'll have blue skies tomorrow to a degree, but it'll be more like, well, maybe like a steely blue instead of a, deep blue or nice shade of blue. Again, because of this light overhang of smoke. And then, look, by tomorrow evening about this time, it's like a donut hole that suddenly opens up and the smoke suddenly disappears. And it suddenly is wide open with some nice smokeless skies. But that's early on Friday morning. But we really won't be able to enjoy that because on Friday we're expecting clouds to return. Tomorrow should be no worse than sunny to partly cloudy. But on Friday, clouds are definitely going to return. And with the return of the clouds will come an increase, again, in the risk of showers and afternoon thunderstorms. They will be arriving, again, later in the day on Friday. And so, once we get into the midday and afternoon on Friday, the smoke returns, along with the clouds and along with the rain and wet weather. But again, let's stress, none of this smoke that you're seeing is going to be a danger or a health danger. It's just a light, overhang of light smoke that will be with us tomorrow and again on Friday as well.
Yeah, there's that darker brown stuff that's up well to the northwest. You wonder whether that comes in for Saturday.
Yeah.
And that hole that develops, actually, I was following it along. It opened up way back, I think somewhere in Ohio, and it just sort of held its position. And then all of a sudden, it just expands. It's probably reacting to whatever changes in the upper flow that are going on as we go through the day tomorrow, and then you get the winds aloft start to turn more to the south because you have that next shortwave coming down. That's probably because it does look like at first glance you think, well, why is it? It looks weird the way it breaks up, or in some cases it goes out and then it fans back westward. But that all has to do with whatever's going on at the surface and aloft.
Yeah, but again, whether or not it's a smoke or smoke less day on Friday, for example. Tomorrow, take advantage of tomorrow, because tomorrow, as I said yesterday, is probably going to be the last nice day that we're going to have here for a while. We're going to have an increasing threat of showers and late day thunder on Friday. Saturday looks like I'm not going to say a washout, but the threat of showers and storms will be with us through the day on Saturday. Sunday, most of the day should be dry, but even by late in the day, we think that skies will cloud up again with maybe a chance for a late day shower for Father's Day. And Juneteenth also looks like it may be marred to a certain degree by a threat of a few scattered showers. So take full advantage of tomorrow, because tomorrow will be the best day of the lot.
Right, we do have a 3-day holiday weekend, which is nice. The folks at WPC on the surface map this morning, this was actually at, let me see, what was the time on this? This was at 11 this morning. They analyzed a closed surface low in southern New York and a trailing cold front that extended down into Virginia. And again, the upper low is also pretty much that low probably reflects more the upper low than anything else. But the front itself actually just sort of disappeared. So what you were left with really was the energy of the upper low, which is pretty much how this was going to play out anyway. Whether they drew a front in there or not would not have made a difference in terms of the outcome with regards to the showers and storms that we got today. Meanwhile, there's another low up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan with a cold front with that, and a stationary front that becomes a cold front back across southern Minnesota and Nebraska, and another cool high behind that. Meanwhile, across the deep south, across the south, you've got this stationary boundary that runs along the Virginia-North Carolina state line, and it's just stationary across Tennessee, northern Alabama, Mississippi, back through southern Arkansas and into Texas. And it's south of that frontal zone that we are seeing numerous showers and thunderstorms with that. This is radar from earlier today when the first lead storms, this was around midday, when the first lead showers and thunderstorms were moving through, and then there were a couple of secondary bands that were back out to the west. We'll give this a quick refresh, and you can see what's going on now. Those bands, those follow-up bands, they're more scattered than anything else. There's a couple of cells. It looks like a heavy cell moving across Long Island at the moment, just north of I-9, along and north of I-95. 2 severe thunderstorm warnings in play as of 7:50 p.m. Eastern Time in eastern Massachusetts. We've got some scattered the rotation from the upper low producing showers and some heavier downpours in upstate New York, also in northern Vermont and into New Hampshire and even parts of Maine. Meanwhile, here's what we got going in the south. And SPC, by the way, Joe, I don't know if you saw it, but they had a moderate risk for severe weather today and a 10% risk of tornadoes. We'll show you that in a second. But we've got a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings that are up across southern Georgia. I don't see any tornado warnings. Oh, there is one tornado warning that pops up in near coastal Georgia, right near the South Carolina state line at the moment. But we've got 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, anywhere between 11 and 15 severe thunderstorm warnings from Mississippi east to southern Georgia. Couple of severe thunderstorm warnings, well, more than a couple. There's like 4 of them in Arkansas, and a couple of them in East Texas. So pretty active line here. And also a couple of strong thunderstorms in southeast Florida, where we have a special marine warning up as of 7:50 Eastern time, and we've got the what's been now a day-to-day occurrence of scattered showers and thunderstorms in parts of the west and extending up into Montana and northern Idaho. Seeing it there too. The Storm Prediction Center. Let me go back to tonight and show you what's going on. We do have a working tornado watch at the moment for southeast Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, and southeast Georgia. Also, two working severe thunderstorm watches are underway as well. And you see the moderate risk of severe weather, so that's pretty much played out according to plan. And then, of course, you go from there to the enhanced risk, and then the slight risk, and then the marginal risk. There's not too much outside of what's in that east-west band. So I'm thinking I may not get much rain out of this. I was hoping I would because I put some more plants down today.
Carol, the chair, just on the chat board, just posted, Joe Cioffi, you were under a tornado watch, but you already knew that, didn't you? Or...
No, I'm not under a tornado watch.
Well, that's what she says.
No, it's in southeast. Yes, in southeast Georgia. There's nothing. There are no watches up by me. I'm in North Georgia. I'm near the Tennessee, North Carolina state line.
Maybe she thinks that you live in the southern part of Georgia.
Well, all right, but she's concerned for my safety.
Yes.
As
just like my wife, by the way. Every little thing that happens to you down there, Joe, pops up on her iPad, and I'm saying, Blairsville, Georgia, and I'm saying, well, why are we getting all of this?
Yes. Well, of course, bless her heart. Thank you. Of course, you could care less. You never cared about me anyway. All you ever wanted was supper on the table, no responsibility, marginal risk is what was shown earlier by SPC, but that's pretty much played. It's playing itself out at the moment, if not has already played itself out in western areas from northern New Jersey to southeastern New England. So the western part of that is pretty much done. Now, just to look closer into this area, they had a 10% tornado risk in a big area of 5%. That the 10% was hatched, Joe, meaning that there was a greater probability of an EF2 to an EF5 within 25 miles of any point. That doesn't happen too often. And the wind probabilities were up at about 45%. And in the hatched area, they were talking about wind gusts of 65 knots or greater, and a very large percentage, a 30% chance of 1-inch diameter hail. And in the hatched area, it's 2-inch diameter hail. So it's almost like a tennis ball.
Yeah. I do not want to get hit on the head by a 2-inch hailstone. Let's put it that way. We did get reports up here in Portia, like, for example, at Point Pleasant, New Jersey, they had hail. And a couple of places in the Hudson Valley also reported hail. I don't think that they were probably any larger than, let's say, pea or dime-sized hail. But we did have it today.
Yeah, with that upper low, sure. It's very cold aloft. And this time of year, as you know, the sun heats up that atmosphere like this with an upper low like that. You get a rather unstable situation. And
you can't get a higher sun than what we have now.
No.
We were coming up right on the solstice, and at midday, the sun is about as high in the sky now as it can possibly get at any time of the year at these latitudes. So, yeah. That's one thing when you have the high sun. So it's one thing after you're coming out of the winter and you talk about late March or April and you say, well, we have a high sun. But, I mean, this is ridiculous. This is as high as you can get.
Yes. 2 hits to the tip jar. Anthony Spiraccio, thank you for hitting Super Chat, and happy Flag Day. Yes, it's June 14th is Flag Day. I forgot to mention that. And also we have David Schwartz. Thank you for throwing some coin into the tip jar, David. Most appreciated. David, of course, is posting about the latest confirmed tornado at 7:51 p.m. Eastern Time, located over Purysburg in southeast Georgia. Actually, that's not that. Wait a minute. Moving east at 45 miles per hour. Show me the full in Beaufort. Jasper, Georgia. Now, Jasper, Georgia is only an hour's drive from me, but there's nothing on the radar up unless there's another Jasper.
It's possible. It's
Let me
possible.
just double check that radar again. Maybe did I miss something? No, there's nothing. I mean, there's absolutely nothing. Atlanta's that box you see, that small box you see in the center, where the northernmost part of the echoes are touching, and I'm in that other, in that uh, whatever you want to call it, to the northeast of that by a good 100 miles. And Jasper
It's
is
like a
made.
fork.
Yeah, Jasper's about 40 miles or so northwest of Atlanta, and there's nothing there. So must be down here. It's in maybe Jasper in South Carolina on the other side because there's that tornado warning.
David Schwartz
Is
says Jasper, South Carolina
it
on
is
the.
Jasper, South Carolina. Thank you. Yeah, and there's also now we have several flash flood warnings that have gone up for southwestern Georgia with all this. This line, if you look at it, it's moving. The cells are moving mostly west east because so if you get under that, you're gonna be raining for quite a while. You're gonna get dumped on for quite a while.
Yeah, yeah. Wasn't that an area just you showed on the
Yeah.
WPC the other night? Well, maybe that was Alabama. Where
No,
they
no, it was they had it a little bit further north, but they did have this, for the 7-day rainfall forecast, they had a 7 to 10 inch band,
yeah,
east central Alabama into southwest Georgia. So that's probably on the southern end of that 7 to 10 inch band that they have for the next 7 days. Just for tomorrow, it's another day where we're going to see potential severe weather, marginal to slight risk across the deep south and the Gulf states, slight risk north central Texas, northward through all of Oklahoma and into Kansas. And this includes two 5% tornado risks inside those two slight risk zones and a large area of 2% encompassing those 5% areas. And then as we go to day 3, which is Friday into Saturday, marginal risk in the central and eastern, well, more of the eastern Gulf states and into southern Georgia, northern Florida. Slight risk northwest Mississippi, northeastward into northwestern Mississippi, northeastward into northeastern Oklahoma. Now, WPC on their latest forecast, they actually shifted that 7 to 10 inch zone, Joe, for much further south. So now it's southeast Alabama, southern Georgia, very northern part of the panhandle of Florida, inside that 7 to 10 inch zone for the next 7 days, and several inches going as far up to the Tennessee North Carolina state line. Actually, in North Carolina, there's up to 3 inches or so at interior parts of South Carolina as well. In the Northeast, it's a 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half from southern New Jersey and southern Pennsylvania, excuse me, northeastward all the way up to Maine. The same holds for the middle Mississippi Valley through the Central Plains, which has got to be good news. I mean, they've been getting shots of rain recently, so that should alleviate their dry conditions a bit, and also continuing up into the northern Rockies and into the Pacific Northwest. And by the way, as you indicated,
yes,
and I have the European up, yeah, the weekend doesn't look, particularly Saturday, and the European in particular is problematic here, and I'll show you why. So here's our system tonight that's moving through. You see the showers and storms. This is not radar, by the way. This is measured precip. That goes through, and it does leave us with a decent day tomorrow with a northwest breeze and more showers and thunderstorms in the south and in the southeast and in the Gulf states. Then we move on to Friday, and of course we've got this next upper trough that's coming down, and it almost looks like today, except for the fact that there's a surface low a little further south this time. It almost looks like today, a repeat performance where there'll be some showers and some thunderstorms developing late morning and afternoon and going into the evening. The problem is, if you believe the European, Joe, it drops the low off the New Jersey coast and south of Long Island, which kind of puts us in a bit of a gloom and doom, at least at the Saturday afternoon. I mean, it does show a fair amount of rain during Saturday morning into the afternoon. It's got rain backed all the way down into Maryland and Delaware
Yeah.
before it, and it's still around even in the evening hours before it finally pulls out Saturday night. And then you think it's okay for Sunday to start, but remember we talked about yesterday, Joe, there's another upper trough that's swinging around on Sunday in a slightly different position, and it produces some scattered showers and storms even on Sunday.
Right. Right. I didn't want to say a washout for Saturday, although, I had to hold my tongue. But it could very well, if things look just a little more wet tomorrow, it could very well be, in many cases, just a washout. This is Sunday again, trying to dry out, but again, too much residual energy in the atmosphere and moisture, and a spoke of that may come by later on Sunday and set the stage for more wet weather. So, as you just mentioned, Joe, even Sunday doesn't look that great.
No.
Maybe probably better than Saturday, but nothing really to write home
I
about.
mean, look how amped up the pattern, the upper pattern is at 18,000 feet at the 500 millibar level. I mean, this is just ridiculous. The blue area tells you that the heights or
Or falling.
well, and also the fact that it's below normal. It's the height anomaly. So we should be at the very least this time of year, where you see the white down in the Gulf of Mexico and off the Florida coast. That's a normal heights for them. Uh, that should be much further to the north. This all should be much further to the north, but it's not. And also the other problem here too, at least for the folks in the south, you've got this almost continuous southern part of the jet stream just going from west to east, and there are little short waves that are embedded in that flow that are triggering off these rounds of severe weather that we're seeing. And then, of course, to lay insult to injury, does the upper low pull out and go away? No. That goes out, and another one drops right in to the northern Great Lakes. You see it there, it briefly closes off Thursday afternoon up in northern Michigan, and then the whole trough just swings southeastward and closes off another upper low that moves right over. This is Saturday morning, a closed upper low sitting right over north central New Jersey. I mean,
That's amazing.
seriously. And then that goes, and it takes forever for this one to get out of the way. And what happens on Sunday? Another one forms in Quebec, north of Lake Ontario, and then that trough sort of swings around. And now, of course, you've got energy that's going to come out of the plains. I'm going to widen this out. I mean, this is really a sick pattern for this time of year. It's just sick. But here comes this. You see this short wave, this other short wave that comes into the west. I'll just back it up here to tonight. And there's energy that's coming into the west, and that gets ejected eastward as we move into the weekend, and then that moves towards the east coast. There's a closed low in southern Missouri that moves into Tennessee and into. I mean, this is really just to see a closed low like this is so unusual. And then it gets to Alabama and Georgia, northern Georgia, and then it opens up and moves northwestward up into Indiana, which means that the second half of next week we've got a southerly flow along the East Coast. So that might not be good, particularly if we get into an onshore flow. We might have the recipe here for some gloom and doom.
I'm thinking too, and I think you remember this, June of 1988, which was, and that whole summer of 88 was a hot, hot summer. But we kicked off that hot summer in June with a number of exceedingly hot days. And as I speak to you, I'm just checking. I'm going back to the NOAA library here because I want to see what the upper air is. And I'll tell you right now, I have a feeling the upper air, you talk about how extreme the upper air is now. If I'm correct, that particular summer, that particular June, we had an upper air where we had like a gigantic ridge over the eastern United States with heights, Joe, of something like 594 or something, or something ridiculous, helping to bring exceedingly hot weather into the northeastern part of the United States. I'm checking the library here, so you can keep talking when I find it.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just gonna. Izzy D says, "What's better, gloom and doom or doom and gloom?" I prefer gloom and doom. I don't know. For some reason, having gloom first over doom sounds better to my ear than doom and gloom. But either way, I mean, I know some folks immediately go that I'm talking about an apocalypse here. No, when I talk about gloom and doom, I'm referring to patterns that you get into where it's cloudy. Maybe it rains, maybe it doesn't. But when it's not raining, it looks like it's going to, and you have a sort of a raw wind, and it's cool and it's damp, and you can't do anything. And in worst case scenarios, it does wind up, where you get a long duration soaking rain. And at least from the standpoint of what the European is showing, well, I'll back it up and you can see for yourself. So, here's our front that goes through. And then, of course, tomorrow, as we said, should be fine. Here's system for Friday night and Saturday. Uh, Saturday looking like a gloom and doom type of day if this works out with a low going off the New Jersey coast, and then it just sort of sits there going into Saturday night before it kicks away far enough east that we get some improvement on Sunday. But remember, there's another short wave dropping down, which is why you see these showers that pop up in on the European Sunday afternoon and evening. And then Monday actually doesn't look terrible. It looks okay. But even by Monday afternoon, because there's general troughing still up in New England, you're seeing some showers break out during Monday afternoon. And also, take a look at this upper low, the one that comes out of the west and goes into uh, the low center itself goes into Oklahoma. So the upper low goes a little further north. I mean, this could probably produce some vigorous shower and thunderstorm activity out of it as it moves east. And there you see it. It's going to drop slowly southeastward. And now all of a sudden, we get this onshore flow that starts on Monday, and the low gets pinched down into the southeastern states, and you got all this rain come Tuesday. Look at that. It's all green from Georgia and Alabama northeastward up into Pennsylvania. And, it takes another day for it to creep up to about New York City. I'll have to see how this plays out because the surface low then, like the upper low, goes north up the west side of the Appalachians and then goes northwestward until it gets almost to Chicago, for God's sake. I mean, how often does that happen where you get a low that starts out almost into the southeast U.S. and then winds up going the west side of the Appalachians? But with a southerly flow, even, and the low going where it's going, there probably will be some areas of rain or showers for much of the second half of next week.
And I'm sharing right now the upper level map.
Okay, hold on. Let me put that up for you.
From June 15th, 1988. And again, I remember this was an atrociously hot summer. I kept telling myself that we're eventually going to break out of this pattern in July and in August. It just kept going one week after another week of heat. And take a look at this, Joe. Now, you want to see the opposite of what we're going through right now? Take a look at that upper level pattern. I mean, look at the size of that ridge. And I will tell you that from Maine down through the mid-Atlantic states, temperatures were in the 90 to 95 degree range with dew point temperatures in the high 60s and lower 70s. This was, if you love hot weather, you were in your element. And I know it was not extreme. I mean, we're not talking about triple-digit temperatures, but this was such a huge ridge. And as you can see, nothing was moving. I mean, you were hoping for a cold front to come through and clean things out and cool things off. Impossible, not with that flow. Everything would shear off to the north, and we were in just this one gigantic ridge. Now, you see off the coast of the mid-Atlantic states, the height is 588, and I'm not exactly sure. I think that the line that's directly above that is also 588, maybe. Oh, no, yes, it was 588. So the heights were at like 588. And I know that, later on in the summer, when we got back into this pattern in July or August, we were seeing heights of 594 or close to 600. I mean, you talk about what we're going through now with close cutoff lows and unseasonably cool conditions and whatever. This was the exact opposite. And again, this was 1988. So this was 12 12, 32, 35 years ago. 35 years ago, we were in the steam cabinet with this type of upper airflow.
Lovely. Leon Probitsky hitting the tip jar tonight. Thank you, Leon. Most appreciated. While Joe was doing that, I was loading the GFS, and we could take a look at the GFS model because that pretty much lines up with the European to an extent. The only difference is the system for Saturday is a little further north, which maybe argues that we could see some improvement later Saturday afternoon and evening. I don't know. Maybe I'm forcing it. But then that goes out. It also tries to show some showers and storms popping up on Sunday. And you can see the energy in the south piling on into the south and southeast. So by the time we get to Tuesday, we're back into some rain late Monday. And in Tuesday, there's your low sitting, in the Georgia-South Carolina state line. And look at that onshore flow with a surface low east-northeast of the North Carolina coast and a handful of isobars between that and a 1024 high to the north. It might get a little breezy if that were correct.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, the second half of next week does look kind of gloom and doomish. But I guess for those that have been waiting for maybe a good soaking rain, the second half of certainly there'll be chances up, through the weekend and in the first part of next week. But this looks like more of a widespread chance for rain, particularly late in the week and maybe even into the next weekend, because it's still got stuff going on. This is I haven't really seen in recent years. Where, I think I said once before, and I can remember back in the 70s and into the 80s, where you get these stalled fronts along the eastern seaboard, north-south fronts, where, it just rains for days. Or maybe not all the time, but you had rain almost, you'd have every rain for like 6, 7, 8 days in a row. But this does look like a particularly wet setup for later next week. And maybe even a little bit beyond that. Is there any sign that that pattern is going to break? So let's look at what the upper air is in the long range. So, I mean, it kind of matches up fairly well with the Europeans' idea for the most part, that weird rotation in the upper low to the west. And then once that lifts out, the flow does normalize a bit after, let's say, Friday the 23rd, Saturday the 24th. The upper flow does normalize a bit. All that blue is gone. The trough in the east is mostly gone. And there's some ridging that's building from New Mexico and West Texas eastward into the western parts of the Ohio Valley. So maybe that's when, right toward the end of the month, that pattern sort of rearranges itself. We'll have to see.
Well, I can tell you that on the 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 day outlook from Climate Prediction Center, they have us in below normal. So that means that if you take face value what they've been putting out, that for the next 2 weeks, we're going to have cooler than normal temperatures and also above normal precipitation, or at least above normal probability of precipitation. So it looks like a very unusual for June. Foolish and rather wettish month.
As I recall, did they not have back a few weeks ago on their 3 to 4 week that the second half was going to be above normal?
Absolutely.
Well, that ain't happening. Johnny Quest hitting the tip jar. He says under that upper low, Mount Washington had 4 to 5 or 6 inches of snow in the last few days. I just spoke to somebody the other day who was actually going there and may be there right now. The only thing is I forgot who it was, but I remember having that conversation. This is what happens when you get into your 60s, folks. And also Frank Scalera. Frank, thank you for hitting the tip jar tonight. It is most appreciated. And now let us segue. There's a nice word, segue. We're going to segue into Briller Jeopardy, where we've been getting stumped lately. So, and on the other hand, there have been nights where people have been hitting the numbers quick. So on this, Joe, we're still doing the average lows for the month of June. Okay?
Right.
For the month of June. So let us begin with Chicago. Chicago.
That toddling town.
Yes.
How about what is William Huber saying? Joe R. Wait till you get into 70s. What does that have to do with anything? It's Cioffi that's making the comment about getting into your 60s. I've said nothing about getting overly aging or whatever. Anyway, Chicago. I'm going to say 66, Joe. 66.
66. Incorrect. I'm keeping track of your steps up the mountain. Let's see. Johnny Quest says Northern Gray say 62. So does Frank Riccio. I'm trying to see 62 for Leon Probitsky, 64 for Kenneth Rosenberg, 66 for William Uber, and New Brunswick, Canada guy, and William Uber both hit it at 63. William Uber corrected his 66 to a 63. 63, Joe. 63.
63.
Okay.
It was just 3 off. Three steps.
3 steps. Next on the list is Cleveland.
Oh, Cleveland.
Cleveland.
The mistake by the lake.
Yeah, the other old joke was getting an announcement that at the airport, all passengers boarding flight 642 nonstop to Cleveland, please report to the ticket counter and inform us why.
How about 59?
How about 59? Okay, let's see. Janet Dunn. It's
I haven't
Dunn.
heard from Janet in a while.
Yes, Janet Dunn, an environmental coffee house, and Patrick Darcy, 61. 61. All right, so you got 20 steps left. The next is Salad, Texas. Salad, Texas.
Now, my question is...
That's Dallas, by the way.
Yes. Actually, you go with Fort Worth, too, I guess, right?
Well, it just says Dallas here, so...
Dallas.
It's actually Salad because it's 2 L's and 2 A's, so Salad.
How about 72?
How about 72? Is he correct? Nah. But you know who is correct? Again? Janet Dunn at 74. Janet Dunn getting it at 74. So you missed it by 2 steps again. Okay. Next is Denver, Colorado. Denver, Colorado. The average low temperature in the month of June for Denver, Colorado.
That's a tough one.
Yes, it is. RevNed, Colorado.
How about I'm going to say 59.
You're going to say 59?
Yes.
And looking at the board, Michael Azera has 54. Louis Orizio, 55. Patrick Darcy, 54. Maggie P at 52. Frank Riccio, 56. Northern Gray, 63. New Brunswick, Canada guy at 60. The answer is... So everybody's a few of you have been dancing around the number 53, Joe. 53.
I mean, I'm only trying. I mean, people on the chat board are asking for it, so I'm trying to.
Okay, that's fine.
What they want.
So you have 13 steps that you've lost. So you only have 12 steps left before you fall off the cliff, and 1 city left.
Okay.
So unless you go off the wall on this, which I don't think you will. Detroit. Right. Tyro-Ted, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan.
How about 62?
How about 62? Is he correct? Let's see how the board's doing here. Chuck Cardillo says 63. 61 for Louis Orizio. 61 for Janet Dunn. 61 for Patrick Darcy. 59 for Michael Azera, but Environmental Coffee House, Joe, gets it at 60. So you only missed it by 3 steps. So you had 13 to give. So Oh God.
There weren't going to be copyright issues. I think we could make that our theme song.
I know. Well, there still may be copyright issues that that
I
we
keep
used
doing
it, but they
this.
haven't. Yeah, I haven't gotten any notification because they'll YouTube will give me a big slap on the wrist if that's the case. Let's
Right.
let's let's hope not. Um, anyhow, all right. Well, that was fun. So back tomorrow at the usual shopping time, which is
7:35.
7:35. That is correct. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow, the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing weather network on the planet. $40 off for any purchase for Father's Day if you use the referral link at the top of the chat board. Or on the descriptor to this video. And also our friends at Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, 6317-561-125 for the best prices in town. And only Joe Rayo can say it. The website is
OmniTrueValue.com. And I'm also going to say thank you to the folks who hit the tip jar tonight. In reverse order, Johnny Quest, Frank Scalera, Leon Probitsky, David Schwartz, and Anthony Spiraccio, who hit it first. Thank you so much, and I guess we'll see you tomorrow night, Joe.
We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Also, thank you for those of you who hit the like button. 55 likes. That ain't too shabby. We'll see you tomorrow evening. Nighty night.
Night.